So, as some of you may know, I just graduated with my PhD in molecular biology, but I've decided to take a bit of a break before moving on to my next stage of career. That's mostly because I had a toxic work environment for the last 6 years, and I want to be really careful with the next work environment I choose. I want them to actually care about people and allow those people to grow. But while I'm taking this break, I've decided that I'm going to try to reclaim my grandfather's property here, because as you can see, it needs a little help. In fact, this garage I'm sitting on right now used to be his workshop, but after he died 10 or 15 years ago, an ice storm hit and the whole roof collapsed over everything that was here. And the house is not much better because some people broke into it, and so it's chock full of mold because they left the door open, and it's just completely uninhabitable. But I have a bit of a background with remodeling houses, and I thought I would put myself to good use while I try to carefully decide where to move next in my career. But while I've been here, surrounded by nature and away from my common chores, I've had a lot of thoughts of Henry David Thoreau come bubbling back in my mind. Thoreau was one of the first people I ever really read, and he formed a lot of who I am now. So I thought I'd share with you some of his thoughts that have come to my mind while I've been working here, even though I haven't read him in maybe 10, 15 years. Now, I don't have a copy of Walden with me, so I won't be able to give you elaborate quotations like I like to do. Instead, I'll just give you a hint of his ideas, and you should just go read Walden for yourself, because it's pretty amazing. The first thing that came to mind was while I was clearing a path with my chainsaw, because the buildings are bad here, yes, but the property itself is also in big disrepair. The briars have grown up and smothered trees which have collapsed into the pathways, and new trees have sprung up in the pathways and are just utterly blocking them. So now we can't even walk where we used to drive trucks 10 years ago. So as I was clearing this path with a chainsaw, the chain got jammed. So I turned off the saw, set it on the ground, and tried to slide the chain freely over the bar to see how jammed it was, and of course sliced my thumb open because I wasn't wearing gloves like a smart person. And as I was walking back to my car to find a shirt to use as a bandage and dripping blood all over the leaves, I couldn't help but chuckle, because this is exactly a scene from Thoreau's Walden. In it, he was talking about the difference between practical knowledge from experience and book learning. And to illustrate his point, he said, imagine there are two boys who want a knife. The first boy goes to the library and checks out whatever books he needs to learn how to dig up the ore and smelt it and then fashion the knife for himself. And the second boy goes to university and studies metallurgy, and upon his graduation, his dad gives him a penknife. He says, which of these two boys is better off? The one who learned the process of making a knife himself and went through all that labor? Or the one who was kind of spoon-fed metallurgy and then given a penknife? And he says, which of the two boys would be more likely to cut his fingers with their knife? Me. I'm the one who cut his finger, and I'm the one who had the book learning. I know about chainsaws a bit, and I've worked with them a little bit in the past, but not a lot, and especially not a lot while I've been working on my PhD in molecular biology. So I have all this book learning, but not a lot of practical knowledge. And that's why I'm taking this break as well, because I want to reclaim my body a bit and get my musculature back and get my calluses back and revive some old skills that I've had and lost, and hopefully learn some new skills as well. The second thing that came to my mind during my time here was Thoreau's thoughts on housing. Because the house is utterly unsafe to live in right now, I've been staying in the back of my truck. And in Walden, Thoreau talks about how we like to think that our modern houses are so much better than more primitive things like wigwams or teepees. But he's like, think about it. They both allow you to shelter yourself from the elements, they both allow you an element of heating and cooling, and they both allow you to cook in them if you need to. And you might say, well, the modern house has plumbing, and that's a big deal. And yeah, that is a great thing. But think of the cost difference between the two. Because today we end up having to give up our income for 30 years to try to pay off a house, if we can ever do that. And Thoreau points this out. He says we give up most of our lives to try to pay for this thing that is merely supposed to protect us from the elements. Whereas a wigwam is easily fashioned from things around you and able to be replaced if need be. And you can go about living your life without that debt hanging over your head that we have designed in our modern society. And so when Thoreau wanted to do an experiment and live on Walden Pond for a while, he put this idea of simplicity into practice as best he could. He ended up buying the used shanty of an Irish railway worker and dismantling it and trying to straighten the boards as best as possible before assembling his cabin at Walden Pond, which was, I think, 10 by 15 feet. And because of this, he was able to save a lot of money. But while he was there, he's like, why don't we take it further? Why don't we instead go live in one of those giant toolboxes down on the railway, which are about as long as a person and maybe 3 feet high? You could definitely live in one of those and be safe from the elements. And then when he got up and left, you could be as free as a bird because you have no debt and you could go about living your life in peace instead of having debt hanging over your head. Now, I don't know if I would advocate that, but I do appreciate the simplicity that has been living in the back of my truck. And I think that both of these ideas of Thoreau's, the idea of doing things yourself and having practical knowledge, and the idea of just living more simply, are nicely illustrated by something else I'm going through right now, and that is a whole bunch of water leaks. I had a water leak at my real house, which is on Lake City water. The water leak was in the supply line that was buried 3 feet underground over a long stretch. No one knew where it was, and I had to hire people to come out and find the leak and then fix it, and they still haven't even fixed it all, and it's already cost $1,500 and will probably end up costing over $2,000 to replace. And incidentally, here at the cabin, I'm also dealing with supply line water leaks, but the difference is that I helped lay that line. I know where it is. We installed it at a spring up on the hill over there, and that pipes the water to the house and allows it to flow down into the ravine after it's gone through the septic tank. So it's a really nice, simple system that comes straight out of the ground and goes back to the ground. And there's no weird middlemen of plumbers or water treatment companies or water supply people. And it's just very nice. And it's such a blessing to have that I know not everyone can have. But it's just fun to be able to get back a little closer and simplify some things so that I can actually take care of stuff myself and know how it operates. But I've rambled enough and I need to get back to work actually. I have to go clean a bunch of trash out of the house now. But I want to do one plug for our next video, which is another unspoken sermon video, because I was fretting about my financial situation while in the back of my truck reading our next sermon, and lo and behold, that sermon is over not fretting about tomorrow and trusting in God. So I'll see you there. In my excitement over there, I think I forgot to share a quote that I meant to, and that's that Thoreau says, "A man is rich in proportion to the number of things he can let alone." I think that's fitting because I'm about to have to go throw away a whole bunch of moldy things that should have just never accumulated. Anyway, see ya. The sun is just cresting the hill over there, so I got up and came to check on the reservoir, and she's full, so I've got a full reservoir of water, which is great. However, not sure how that has happened, but that's obviously a problem. So I think I have something that could work as a band-aid solution for this, so let me slap it on there. Great, we're back in business.